Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of At Home, a series of videos where you ask me your burning hunt questions and other topics, and I tell you what I think, part informed opinion, part conjecture. We have some really great questions today, but first I want to say thanks for everyone that used code HOME in the Crytek shop following the last video. My phone never gets notifications really, but the email confirmations were raising a few eyebrows when I was at a family dinner. So thanks for that. If you do use code HOME, send me a picture confirmation on Discord or Twitter, and I'll include a list of names in the next At Home video as a little thank you for all the support. The gameplay in the background was a free-for-all solos game on the test server. That's what's going on. It's a good 15 kill game, but it's not actually like the normal standard thing. Okay, on to the first question then, which comes from Milan Latinovic 2888. They ask, how do you feel about the potential plot twist of the new monster slash boss not being an alligator slash crocodile? Instead, the cages placed around the map for players to interact with is actually alluding to the idea the monster isn't a croc, we brought in those cages to feed the crocs to something bigger. And the new monster is something else, unique, bigger, and it eats those lizards. I really like this suggestion because I think Crytek could go different directions with these quest lines. So as of update 112, you can find these gator traps near the water, and if you go in Darksight, you can see different sets of footprints. We aren't really sure what these are yet, but it seems like a tease for something coming in the future. But again, we aren't sure how distantly either. So as this comment suggests, maybe it's something that is much larger than the alligator these traps are meant for, and the gators are just bait to bring out whatever that is. So a cool idea, and there's probably a rabbit hole you could go down, but I'm not sure we have enough clues yet to make any conclusions. The next question comes from Michael Myers 7868. And it's not really in the form of a question, but a suggestion, but I want to talk about it anyway. They say, basically, how about a new trait called Iron Lung, and it costs 4 points. Iron Lung makes you immune to choke bombs for about 3 seconds, and it essentially makes your hunter hold their breath for up to 3 seconds, which is long enough to run through a choke or get necro revived and not be heard, but not long enough to just hang out in one or even a normal revive on someone. It could also reduce how long you cough after leaving a choke and slightly reduce the aim punch inflicted. I want to talk about this question because I totally get the reasoning on this trait. Sometimes you really want to go for that risky revive, but there's a choke in the way, or sometimes you really need to access a certain location in the compound, but coughing would just expose you to a world of hurt. This trait would allow you to make those clutch plays or move more freely. And while I can see that this wouldn't be too broken since it only lasts for about 3 seconds, you couldn't live in a choke bomb. My problem as an avid choke thrower is it reduces the consistency of chokes. Chokes honestly might be my favorite tool. Not only can you extinguish allies, you can lock down doorways, you can cover lines of sight, and you can flush people out of a hiding spot. Would this trait ruin all of that? No, I mean, it only works for a few seconds, but I'd be worried about the truly risky stealth revives. Say you got a kill, you burn the body, and then their ally chokes them, necros them, and because the dead player has this trait, he quickly exits the choke and gets away or kills you. It's already hard enough to see and hear through a choke, so that situation might suck a bit more than usual. And that's just one thing to consider. Also, if you have this trait, you could use it in a very offensive way. You could toss all the chokes you have or shoot a bunch of choke bolts in a place, putting the enemy at a disadvantage, especially if they are getting aim punched for coughing. And then you can run in with this trait and just clean up. Sure, technically you can do that now, but the chokes would definitely backfire on you a little bit. Whereas with this trait, you might be able to move too freely through a choked room. So I don't know. I don't really like the idea of breaking the consistency of choke interactions, but I can also see how this trait would be useful. If Crytek wanted to do this, I'd be curious to see how the devs would tackle balance. How quickly does that 3-second timer reset? You definitely wouldn't want players AD spamming in and out of chokes that they threw into a room. I know it sounds like I don't like this idea, but I just think it has a lot of balance ramifications, and I view chokes as a kind of lawful good of throwables, and this trait might diminish that. I'm open to the idea if the devs can prevent it from being abused. The next question comes from Snack Inspection. great name. Should Hunt add a dog tag system? Personally, it would be cool to see this, especially if you also got a trophy case that other players could see when inspecting our profile. Basically, each player would have a unique dog tag / gun, ID, skull, coin, etc. that would be lootable by the person who killed them. They would then have this trophy forever for killing that person. This would also be cool because you could visibly see if you killed the same person more than once. I'm pretty sure what inspired this idea is the dog tag system from Battlefield, and in Battlefield 3 and 4 and other titles, but this is when it got really popular. If you executed another player, you did this animation and you took their dog tag and you could collect a bunch of dog tags from players around the game, and then you could see those in the menu. And that system is really sweet, and I remember always chasing dog tags, especially in Battlefield 3 when you'd have snipers up on the mountains. I don't think Crytek would ever let players perform an execute animation like that because it restricts player agency and you just get locked into this animation. And even Battlefield kind of backtracked on this because you could do it in Battlefield 3, but even in Battlefield it got kind of annoying, and so they had to do some sort of counter to it. And I'm not sure it was ever really that great. That being said, if there was some special way or process to collect a dog tag or whatever the item is, then I would be all for it in Hunt. I wouldn't want it for every corpse that you loot and or kill, but for actions that take a little more sneaking or preparation, like those melee takedowns in Battlefield. Also, I'm not sure that dog tags would make too much sense thematically for Hunt. No one is a standard issue soldier, and some legendaries have a pretty vague past that makes me think they wouldn't carry a unique identifier. Also, Hunt is still small enough that I recognize player names all the time at the end of match screen or when they pick up a bounty. So maybe it's too close-knit at the moment and it might need a little more growth. I would love to have some sort of trophy system, but I can't think of one that works or makes sense for the game, unfortunately. I guess the closest thing we have is these Steam profile comments or direct messages on Xbox and PlayStation, and those count for something, I guess, but they are pretty toxic usually, so having a friendly version of this would be cool too. I just don't know how the devs could do it practically within the game of Hunt Showdown. The next question comes from Mark Ron Caroni 697. How do you feel about medkits on the map being lootable to replenish a used medkit charge if you are already at full health? In addition, making trip mines lootable as well if you start the match with the same type and are missing a charge. This idea comes up a lot, and I think it's one of those that sounds good on paper. With this ability, if you got in a long fight and came out victorious, you could then prepare for your next engagement, whatever that may be, by restoring a health charge from a world medkit. And that sounds great until you consider that you could use your medkit and then visit a resupply station and totally refill not only yours, but your buddy's medkit as well. And then that same duo, now full on health, could also get the bonus consumable from the toolbox. And there's just not much trade-off there. They just got free health and an extra consumable. I think reducing the rarity of health in the world would have a lot of knocking effects. Physician and doctor would technically be stronger than they already are because medkits would be so reliable, and now you can refill them endlessly. Maybe I would be open to the medkit idea if there was data showing that people were skipping out on medkits in favor of other healing items, but I would highly doubt that that's the case, and I don't see the need to buff the already super necessary medkit. I wouldn't mind to see a weaker healing tool that could be refilled this way, because right now the medkit is the only tool that heals for some reason. There's gotta be room for another, but then if someone brings both healing tools, maybe they have too much health now, and we're back to the healing rarity problem. It's an interesting idea, just a hard thing to execute and not break the balance. As for the trip mines one, I'm totally fine with that. If you find an extra trip mine and you are missing a charge, why not be able to put it in your inventory? I guess the only thing that would be weird is if the skins didn't match. Okay, and now for my favorite section, the rapid fire questions that can be a little more lighthearted. The first one comes from Marvin Marty 638, giving grunts the ability to hold you and be an easier target for PvP or other grunts. I put this question in here because immediately when I read it, I thought of a grunt spooning with a tier 1 hunter, and I wanted to instill that for other people. To answer this question though, I really don't like this idea of being locked in an animation or whatever it is. I guess Concertina already does this, but Concertina can't chase you down unless it's like Scrapbeak, and so I just don't see this being added. The next two questions I'm putting together because they have a similar premise. The first one is from SendHelp826. How about a world item or area that's like voodoo or a ritual spot where you could sacrifice a health chunk but gain a point of Darksight boost? And then the other one is from Lord Rydag. I think there should be a trait that allows you to block an extract for 30 to 60 seconds at the cost of burning one of your health bars. You can do so from any distance throughout the map. You can only block on one extract at a time. I'm adding these two together because I see people throw burning a health bar as a way to balance certain strong ability ideas. But one thing I want to add about these types of ideas is that they are undone by the ability to banish bosses. Whatever the ability gain is for burning a health bar, you basically get it for free if you manage to kill a boss. So generally I would say no, probably. But also, with these two specifically, I think Darksight should be reserved for bounties, and blocking extracts should be reserved for running up to them. But if you do like this idea, maybe we will see packs where you can spend your health points to do certain actions. In the same way that you spend health with Necro Revive, you kind of count down those health points without actually burning them off. I could see that being used in future packs, but I would say for now, I would pass. And I don't think burning a health bar is a good counterweight into balance. That was supposed to be a quick answer, but it kind of turned into not a quick answer. So let's do a quick one for sure. This question comes from Sam Martyr 4918. Their question is, what is your favorite breakfast food? My girlfriend and I have been in this routine of waking up super early on Saturday and going to this local barbecue place, and we get the same thing: 4 brisket tacos, 2 pancakes, and 2 cups of coffee, and we just talk about our week. And I feel like whenever that routine stops, we will look back on those tacos fondly. And that brings us to the end of this episode of At Home. What do you think? Are the Gator cages a misdirect for something larger? Do we need a trait to run through choke clouds? Send me a pic if you use code HOME in the Crytek shop, and I'll make a list. Until the next video, goodbye.